Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome back.
So we're here again. It's getting dark early.
It's
cold. So the days of going outside are almost finished. So
well, in the evening.
yeah, summer.
We're not going to hibernate for the next 6 months.
Sitting and reading outside the other day froze us to death. Okay, so we're going to continue reading. Where are we at?
Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 19. Chapters Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart.
So say the invocation.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 19. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses praise these men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Purport. The general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life in spiritual values, are no better than animals, and in this verse they have particularly been put on the level of dogs, hogs, camels and asses. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept a position of service to a greater master.
There you go. That's why I didn't go to university.
After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated persons move like dogs from door to door with applications for some service, and mostly they are driven away informed of no vacancy. It's true. True. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves the master faithfully without sufficient rewards.
Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are... This is a famous verse, by the way. This is the dogs, hogs, camels, and asses verse. So it's famous because Srila Prabhupada in the purport goes through and explains why this terminology is used to describe materialistic people. So first one is dogs, and it's because, why is it? Because people act like dogs, going around searching for a master to give them a bone, like that, and mostly they're just driven away, formed no vacancy. The negligible animals serve the master faithfully for bits of bread. So like that. So persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stools. So stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatables for a particular type of animal or bird. But the human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for the human being. For chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with 2 canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of food offered to Lord Sri Krishna, and the Lord accepts foodstuff from the categories of leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. As described by Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not imitate the animals to derive so-called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. Well, there you go.
The camel is a kind of animal.
Camel.
The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating horns.
Thorns, I think. It's not horns.
It's a silent T.
Horns.
A person who wants to enjoy family life or the worldly life of so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations, just to make the best use of the bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there's not much more to be explained in this connection. The camel also sucks his own blood while chewing thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cut at the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns mixed with fresh blood create a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys the thorn-eating business with false pleasure. Similarly, the great business magnates, industrialists...
Magnates.
Magnates.
They're not magnets exactly, but magnates, similar idea.
Industrialists who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. Therefore, the Bhagavatam has situated these diseased fellows along with the camels.
So, yes, those who work hard and try to enjoy, it's false enjoyment, so therefore they're compared to the camels. And that's because the camels go and eat these thorny bushes, and the thorns cut the tongue, so the tongue secretes blood, and the blood mixes with whatever they're eating. And if you've ever, I don't know if anyone does it, but when I was a kid, you hurt your finger and you immediately stick it in your mouth and you kind of taste the blood, and blood's kind of sweet almost. You ever done that? I'm obviously a vampire. But anyway, it's sweet like that. So then it mixes with these thorns and it tastes very nice. So they keep eating more and just keep cutting the tongue. So it's just the idea of false pleasure. Last one. So we had dogs, hogs, camels, and now asses. So the ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool, even amongst the animals. The ass works very hard and carries burdens of the maximum weight without making profit for itself. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman, whose social position is not very respectable. And the special qualification of the ass is that it is very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex, yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A henpecked man is compared therefore to the ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving tela and rickshaws. Do you know what tela is? Mm-mm. The so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged a human being in the work of an ass. The laborers in great factories and workshops are also engaged in such burdensome work, and after working hard during the day, the poor laborer has to be again kicked by the fair sex, not only for sex enjoyment, but also for so many household affairs.
So Srimad Bhagavatam's categorization of the common man without any spiritual enlightenment into the society of dogs, hogs, camels and asses is not at all an exaggeration. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that is not very flattering. The Bhagavatam openly declares that although a person may be a great leader of such dogs and hogs disguised as men, if he has no taste for being enlightened in the science of Krishna, such a leader is also an animal and nothing more. He may be designated as a powerful, strong animal or a big animal, but in the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is never given a place in the category of man, on account of his atheistic temperament. Or in other words, such godless leaders of dogs and hog-like men are bigger animals with the qualities of animals in greater proportion.
Anyway, it reminds me that the elections are coming up in America very soon. Such leaders of, society.
Yeah, that's the best they got.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Don't want to get political, but I mean,
No.
really, is that it? You just got two people who can run? I mean, it's just all based on what? On money or something? I mean, there must be other people. Where are the good people who can lead society? Where are they? We're just living in a society of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Text 320. One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes, and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Pretty. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic, as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses so that one can logically understand the great mission.
In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns, and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this verse is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense.
Interesting comparison. So, the tongue is meant to be chaste, or married to, or committed to chanting the glories of the Lord. And if it starts to chant any other things, any other glories, then it becomes unfaithful. That was the word I was looking for, faithful. Becomes unfaithful to the Lord, and therefore that means like a prostitute. Doesn't necessarily mean that one sells one's wares to someone else, but it means that unfaithful, basically. 21. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari. As stated herein, there are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. The first class devotee does not at all see anyone who is not in service of the Lord. That means first class devotee sees everyone in service of the Lord. But the second class devotee makes distinctions between devotees and non-devotees. The second class devotees are therefore meant for preaching work, and as referred to in the above verse, they must loudly preach the glories of the Lord. The second class devotee accepts disciples from the section of third class devotees or non-devotees. Sometimes the first class devotee also comes down to the category of the second class devotee for preaching work. But the common man who is expected to become at least a third class devotee is advised herein to visit the temple of the Lord and bow down before the deity, even though he may be a very rich man or even a king with a silk turban or crown. The Lord is the Lord of everyone, including the great kings and emperors, and men who are rich in the estimation of mundane people must therefore make it a point to visit the temple of Lord Krishna and regularly bow down before the deity. The Lord in the temple...
Yes. The Lord in the temple in the worshipful form is never to be considered to be made of stone or wood, for the Lord in his outer incarnation as the deity in the temple shows immense favour to the fallen souls by his auspicious presence. By the hearing process as mentioned herein before, this realization of the presence of the Lord in the temple is made possible. As such, the first process in the routine work of devotional service, hearing, is the essential point. Hearing by all classes of devotees from the authentic sources like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is essential. The common man who is puffed up with his material position and does not bow down before the deity of the Lord in the temple, or who defies temple worship without any knowledge of the science, must know that his so-called turban or crown will only succeed in further drowning him in the water of the ocean of material existence. A drowning man with a heavy weight on his head is sure to go down more swiftly than those who have no heavy weight. A foolish, puffed-up man defies the science of God and says that God has no meaning for him. But when he is in the grip of God's law and is caught by some material disease like cerebral thrombosis, that godless man sinks into the ocean of nescience by the weight of his material acquisitions. Advancement of material science without God consciousness is a heavy load on the head of human society, And so one must take heed of this great warning.
The common man, if he has no time to worship the Lord, may at least engage his hands for a few seconds in washing or sweeping the Lord's temple. Maharaj Prataparudra, the great powerful king of Orissa, was always very busy with heavy state responsibilities. Yet he made it a point to sweep the temple of Lord Jagannath at Puri once a year during the festival of the Lord. The idea is that however important a man one may be, he must accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. This God consciousness will help a man even in his material prosperity. Maharaj Prataparudra's subordination before Lord Jagannath made him a powerful king, so much so that even the great Patan in his time could not enter into Orissa on account of the powerful Maharaj Prataparudra. And at last, Maharaj Prataparudra was graced by Lord Sri Chaitanya on the very grounds of his acceptance of subordination to the Lord of the universe. So even though a rich man's wife has glittering bangles made of gold on her hands, she must engage herself in rendering service to the Lord.
Text 21. Can we do that?
Yeah, this will be the last one. Just want to stop now.
Okay.
You want to stop?
Yeah, it's quite long. Sorry.
Okay. So we're going to finish here. We'll pick up the next one is also another famous. This is a series of quite famous and well-known verses. So we'll pick up again and we'll leave you on a cliffhanger. So remember, Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1 here with a picture of Radhalandanishwar on the front. Anyone interested, get in touch. And thank you to those who have ordered some. They're coming out to you sooner rather than later. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.
Yay.